Hello and welcome to the RTK After Show. We are the creators of the show. My name is Perry.
I'm Landon.
And we hope you enjoyed the very first episode of The Road to Keiluma. Now, on this after show, you can expect us to go a little deeper into the episodes you just listened to, break down some of the themes, talk about the characters, talk about the moments, and just really go a little bit deeper into everything that just happened in the first episode. So, with that being said, Landon, you are the head writer of the story. And, in the pilot, we meet a lot of new characters. We do a lot of interesting things. What is something that stands out to you as part of one of your favorite things from the pilot?
Yeah, well, early on in the writing process, we were thinking of what's going to set this fantasy world apart. A lot of fantasy worlds have something distinct about them. And what really came to be, I think, was the inspiration of the Guardians. How in our first draft, the Guardians didn't speak. The giant bat that we meet at the end didn't speak. And so that was a later thing. And then that kind of developed into this whole lore, which the bat very gently hints at, that there are others out there, maybe not. And so that was really fun. That scene went through a lot of revision. And for Oric and Vera to have that moment where they start at the beginning kind of, sparring with each other, kind of being competitive rivals, then having to work together to overcome. In the end, that was a really fun moment. So that whole scene was just a ton of fun.
And let me just say, I'm glad I got overruled on that one, because I was originally against the Talking Bat. And you know what? It has drawn rave reviews, and it seems like the Talking Bat was just a great addition to the story.
Well, and one of the things, that was sort of my baby, that scene, but you did a lot with Saffron in this episode, so talk to us about
Yeah, Saffron, I just gravitated towards the villain early on. I wanted a villain that was kind of a smooth talker, someone who could win people over. And so the monologue in the first episode, and it's one of my favorite pieces of just dialogue throughout the scene. It just introduces him so beautifully. And when I heard Andy, our actor, do it during recording, I was just blown away. I was like, this is better than I could have imagined it was going to be. And it's still one of my favorite parts of the whole show. So just love the monologue as a villain introduction, even though he is introduced a little bit earlier on, but you still get you get a good sense of what kind of villain he really is. Through his monologue.
Totally.
So
he did awesome. Our whole cast did awesome. It was so fun to see them come into this very studio, actually, and the words that we wrote came to life. So that was a ton of fun. I want to ask you one more question. So as you think about the episode, what sort of themes or emotional through lines connect with you personally from this episode?
No, totally. And I know that both of us put a lot of our own childhood in the Oric Yannick story. I love how we're portraying Oric with this a little bit of idolization of his father at the beginning, because it's so relatable, I think, to a lot of us as kids. We look up to our dads and we're like, wow, my dad is the coolest. I want to be just like him. And I know I certainly did as a kid. And it puts a lot of pressure on you when you're young. You don't realize it. And then as you start growing up and you become, similar to an age like Oric is, you start feeling the pressure of performing. And, if you're not doing the things that you feel like you should be doing at that age, then you just feel like a failure. And Oric's starting to feel that, and you just have this moment in the middle of our episode 1 when Yannick says to him, "You'll make me proud one day," and that just shatters him. You can imagine like the idea of like just feeling like, wait, so are you telling me I have to do something, be someone different, or change in some way to make you proud one day, not the way I am right now? And whether or not that was what Yannick intended in that moment, that's what Oric heard, and it just you can imagine feeling that as a kid. I can relate to just that feeling of pressure of like, oh, I need to make my dad proud with everything I do.
Yeah, I think a lot of us, whether we had a good relationship with our parents or a not so good relationship with our parents, at one point wanted to make them proud, or maybe still do, and a lot of us carry that into adulthood. I think I connect with that in several ways, and I think that actually applies to me and my relationship with God. Like that's something I still struggle with of, man, I feel the weight of, I have to make God proud. And how do you do that? Because he's perfect and his standard is here. And then when I mess up, it all comes crashing down and I feel horrible and I feel ashamed. And man, so what do I do in a moment like that? And a verse from Matthew 3 that really is a comfort to me in those moments is, if you remember the baptism story, when Jesus is baptized and the Holy Spirit descends on him, and the Father says, "This is my Son with whom I am well pleased." And I can take comfort in that because that promise, that feeling of love that the Father feels towards the Son is true of you and I, even though we didn't do anything to earn it. It's just Jesus, who lived a perfect life and has all these blessings to give us, does. And that helps me not feel like I have to fall into a performance mentality. And it actually makes me want to walk more closely with the Lord and be obedient and do things for him, but not because I have to make him proud, but just because he loves me and I want to be in a right relationship with him. So I think that's kind of what it looks like for me. So
yeah, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. You can tell just right away that we are fully invested in the story we're telling. And so we know that there are people out there that are like us and grew up with stories like us. And so we just hope that you'll find encouragement in the story.
Yeah.
And and if parents, if you want to go even deeper with your kids, that we've left some discussion questions in the description of the episode. So you can check those out. If you're watching on YouTube, you can check those out in the description there as well. So please go deeper, talk about some of these deeper themes, and come back for episode 2. And we're going to be right here talking more about episode 2's themes. So see you then.
See you then.